Frost Bend was the kind of town people visited for snow and stayed for ice cream. A strange, stubborn place where winter never scared anyone away and the Blue Ribbon Creamery stayed open no matter how cold it got. But everything changed the night the factory died. It started with a scream, one sharp, ripped from the soul scream coming from the loading bay. Workers stumbled out seconds later, choking, gasping, collapsing on the frozen concrete. Nine people gone by the time paramedics arrived, all from the same shift, all from the same batch of ice cream. Frost Bend froze in shock, literally and figuratively. But the strangest part? Lab reports showed the poison wasn't from the factory. It wasn't even from Frost Bend. It was an agricultural pesticide nobody in town used. But 17 miles away, in a dying town called Hollow Creek, that pesticide was as common as air. And standing at the center of Hollow Creek was a quiet, limping farmer named Giles Murrow. Hands cracked like old stone, eyes heavy with grief. A man whose life ended in a fire that stole his wife, his daughter, and every warm thing he once held close. People said he never smiled after that. People also said Frost Bend never cared. When investigators followed the evidence trail, barrels, footprints, receipts, it all pointed straight at Giles's farm. The case looked solved, until detectives reached his barn and found him already dead. Slumped over a table, coffee cold, no struggle marks except one bruise, a fingerprint pressed dark into his arm. Someone held him down, someone silenced him, someone who did not want him talking. Frost Bend's mayor went live that afternoon, trembling on camera, blaming Hollow Creek, calling Giles bitter, calling the tragedy a case of outsider resentment. But in the back of the crowd stood a woman who didn't buy any of it. Amara Wynn, former investigative journalist turned recluse. A woman who once chased monsters until one chased her back. She swore never to return to reporting, but Giles Murrow's face changed everything. Years ago, she had interviewed him after the fire. He told her, "Fire doesn't kill clean. Someone helped it." She thought it was trauma speaking. But now 9 dead workers and the same haunted man dead in the same 24 hours? That wasn't trauma. That was a connection. Amara drove to Hollow Creek instantly. The town felt hollow in every sense. Shuttered shops, cracking roads, unspoken fear hanging like fog. Everyone said the same thing. Giles was gentle, decent, incapable of hurting anyone. But they also said he argued with a stranger the week before. A tall man. Heavy coat. Frost Bend accent. Why would someone from Frost Bend come all the way to Hollow Creek to fight with a broken farmer? Amara broke into the barn on her second night of investigating. She expected dust and goat feed. Instead, she found a hidden drawer stuffed with threatening letters. "You owe us. Don't forget who saved you. Silence is not optional." Saved him? From what? Then she found the photograph, a picture of Giles's farm before the fire, his house intact, orchard full, and behind them, a greenhouse. But Frost Bend's land records showed Giles never owned one. Why hide a greenhouse? Why burn it? Why erase it from existence? She flipped the photo over. Her breath stopped. On the back was the Blue Ribbon Creamery logo. Giles's greenhouse, burned in the fire that killed his family, belonged to the creamery. He worked with them, or for them, and they hid it. Someone didn't just poison the creamery. Someone poisoned the witness to a crime committed years ago. Amara ran toward her car to call the police, but her phone buzzed first. A message from an unknown number. "Stop digging, Amara." She froze. They knew her name, her movements, her involvement. Another message arrived, this time a video. Grainy footage inside a dairy truck, and tied up in the back was the Frost Bend mayor, gagged, terrified, eyes begging through the darkness. A voice behind the camera spoke softly. Part 2 begins with her confession. If you're brave enough to hear it, come alone. The video cut out. Silence swallowed Hollow Creek. Then headlights appeared behind her. A black SUV, engine humming like a warning. The driver stepped out, tall, gloved, thick coat, Frost Bend accent. The exact description of the man seen arguing with Giles. He looked straight at her. "Get in the car, Miss Wynne," he said calmly. "If you want the truth, or if you want to survive." The back door opened on its own. Cold air rushed in. Amara's pulse slammed against her ribs. The night felt like it was holding its breath. Amara stood frozen beside the black SUV, the cold night air slicing across Hollow Creek like a blade. The man in the heavy coat stared at her with eyes that held no fear, no urgency, just certainty. "Get in," he repeated, and against every instinct screaming in her chest, her head nodded. She got in. The door snapped shut behind her like a trap being set. The driver drove without speaking, his gloved hand steady on the wheel. The silence felt intentional, like every word he didn't say mattered more than the ones he could. Amara finally broke it. "Where's the mayor?" He didn't look at her. "Where all loose ends belong." They drove for nearly an hour, through back roads and abandoned farmlands, until Frost Bend's outskirts rose like a ghost in the snow. Then they stopped. At an old Creamery storage barn, long retired, long forgotten, and exactly the kind of place people were never meant to find. The man opened the back door. "Whatever you see in there, you didn't see for me." Amara stepped inside the barn. The temperature dropped instantly. And there, bound to a support beam, shaking, gagged, was the mayor. Tears streaked her frozen cheeks. Someone had been questioning her for hours. Amara rushed forward, pulling the gag off. "What did you do?" she demanded. The mayor coughed, gasping for air, barely able to speak. It wasn't supposed to happen this way." Amara leaned in. "Start talking." The mayor broke. Blue Ribbon Creamery wasn't just an ice cream company. It was the syndicate's farm. Amara blinked. "The what?" "A black market distribution ring, hidden inside a family brand. They smuggled illegal pesticides, modified livestock hormones, banned additives. The Creamery trucks weren't delivering treats, they were delivering chemicals. Giles stumbled onto it. And suddenly the pieces clicked like bones snapping into place. Giles's greenhouse, the fire, the threats, the bruise on his arm. The mayor kept shaking, words spilling out like a confession she'd held in for years. He was growing a formula for them, a secret crop. When he found out what the chemicals were doing to people, he threatened to expose them. They burned everything. They killed his family. They kept him alive only because they needed the formula replicated. Amara felt sick. And the poisoning of the factory? The mayor squeezed her eyes shut. The syndicate did it. But they planned to blame Hollow Creek, blame Giles, blame anyone but themselves. "Why?" Amara whispered. "Power," she breathed. "Chaos makes people blind. Blind people sign anything." Amara's heart pounded. "Who runs the syndicate?" The mayor didn't answer. She looked at something behind her, slowly, fearfully. Amara turned. The man in the heavy coat, the one who brought her here, stood in the doorway. But something about him had changed. His shoulders squared, his stance shifted, his voice deepened. "She doesn't need my name, only my message." He stepped forward. "We don't lose, we adapt." But Amara wasn't afraid anymore because she had noticed something when he opened the car door earlier. His glove, a tear in the leather, and beneath it a bruise on his hand, purple, finger-shaped. the same bruise Giles had. She gasped, "You killed Giles!" His jaw tightened. He became unreliable. "You killed 9 innocent workers." Collateral. Amara stepped in front of the mayor. "You poisoned the factory and blamed a grieving man who lost everything because of you." The man shrugged like it meant nothing. "The world is built by the strong, maintained by the afraid." And that was it. The moment the balance shifted, the moment the hunter realized the prey wasn't running anymore, because Amara Wynn wasn't just a reporter, she was a survivor, one who learned to record everything. She lifted her phone. "You should be careful when kidnapping journalists. We're paranoid. We hit record early." His face drained of color. For the first time, he looked afraid.
Amara stepped back. "That's your confession," she said. "The whole town will hear it by morning." He lunged, fast, violent. But something else moved faster. The mayor's chair scraped against the floor. She kicked her leg out, hooking the man's ankle. He crashed forward, and Amara swung a rusted metal pipe with every ounce of fear, fury, and justice she had left. The pipe cracked against his skull. He collapsed, unconscious. The barn went silent as snowfall. Amara unlocked the mayor's ropes with shaking hands. "This ends tonight," she whispered. They dragged him outside and called the state police. Amara played the recording. The mayor confessed her role, the cover-ups, the intimidation, the fear. By dawn, Frost Bend descended into chaos. Blue Ribbon Creamery shut down permanently. State police raided the syndicate's hidden facilities. Arrests swept across the county like a winter storm swallowing a town whole. The workers who died were honored. Giles Murrow was cleared of all blame. Hollow Creek held a memorial for him, quiet, small, but filled with love he never knew he still had. And Amara? She didn't return to retirement. She returned to the truth. Because some stories don't just demand to be told, they demand justice. Her final narration played over the footage of the takedown. When people hide their crimes in sweetness, remember, poison tastes the same in every mouth. But justice? Justice leaves a bitter aftertaste only the guilty can taste. Frost Bend healed with time, but the syndicate? They never forgot the woman who exposed them. Because 2 weeks later, at 3:17 a.m., Amara's phone buzzed. One message, no number, no signature, just 4 words. Round 2 begins soon. But that is a new case entirely.